Hello everyone, welcome to my series of video lessons number 32. In this video lesson you will learn an interesting, inspiring and motivational lesson, and the name of the lesson is How I Taught My Grandmother to Read for 4th semester students, and the story is written by Sudha Murthy. First of all, let's understand the introduction and theme of the story. In the story, Sudha Murthy describes the determined efforts of an illiterate old lady Krishnaka to make herself literate. She decided to read a novel on her own. The grandmother set the deadline and achieved the target next to impossible within the time set for it. She was able to read the novel Kashi Yatre in the Kannada language on her own at 62. She was helped by her young granddaughter who acted as her only teacher. The grandmother proved that there is no age bar for learning. Triveni's popular novel Kashi Yatre. The narrator was a girl of about 12. She used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with her grandparents. At that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in the Kannada language. Her style was easy to read and quite convincing. Her stories dealt with the complex problems in the lives of ordinary people. Well, one of her novels, Kashi Yatre, was appearing as a serial in the Kannada magazine Kamavira. It was the story of an old lady who desired to go to Kashi to worship Lord Vishweshwara. In the story, there was also a young orphan girl. She couldn't marry because she had no money for the wedding. Well, in the end, the old lady gives away all her savings to the girl without going to Kashi. She considered the happiness of the orphan girl more important than even worshipping Lord Vishweshwara at Kashi. Let's know about the main character, grandmother Krishnaka. The narrator's grandmother never went to school and she couldn't read or write. Every Wednesday the magazine Kamavira would come. The grandmother would ask her 12-year-old granddaughter to read the next episode of the story to her. She would listen to her with the greatest concentration. During that time, she would forget all her work. Later, she could repeat the entire text by heart. The grandmother too never went to Kashi. She identified herself with the heroine of the novel. After listening to the next episode of the Kashi Yatre, she would join her friends at the temple courtyard. There she would discuss the latest episode with her friends. Now let's see, how does grandmother feel sad? Grandmother in tears. Once the narrator went for a wedding with her cousins to a neighboring village. She went for a couple of days but overstayed there for a week. When she came back to her village, she saw her grandmother in tears. She was shocked. She had never seen the old lady cry even in the most difficult circumstances. The old lady narrated her story to her granddaughter. She had lost her mother when she was just a young girl. There was nobody to look after and guide her. Her father married again. In those days, nobody cared to give education to girls, so she never went to school. She got married very young and had children. Later she had grandchildren. Let's see. How does grandmother regret for not going to school? The grandmother felt so much happiness in cooking and feeding all of her children. At times she used to regret not going to school. She had learnt a lesson. So she made sure that her children and grandchildren studied well. And the narrator was away. Kamavira came as usual. She opened the magazine. She couldn't understand anything that was written there. For the first time she felt so much dependent and helpless. Now let's see, how does grandmother take a decision. It is the twist of the story. The grandmother decided to learn the Kannada alphabet from the next day onwards. She decided to work very hard. She kept the Saraswati Puja day during Dasara as the deadline. That day she would be able to read a novel on her own. She wanted to be independent. The narrator saw the determination on her face, and she laughed at the decision of her grandmother. She made fun of the old lady, but her grandmother just smiled and said nothing. Now let's see, how does grandmother become a wonderful student? The next day onwards, the narrator started her tuition. The grandmother was a wonderful student. She did amazing homework. She would read, repeat, write and recite. The narrator was her only teacher. The grandmother was her first student. Now let's see, how does grandmother read Kashi Yatre on her own? The Dasara festival came as usual. The novel Kashi Yatre had been published by that time. The narrator secretly bought a copy of the novel. The grandmother called her granddaughter to the puja place and made her sit down on a stool. She gave her a gift of frock material. Then the grandmother did something unusual. The old lady gave an explanation. She told her that she was touching the feet of a teacher, not of her granddaughter. She taught her so well that she could read any novel confidently. A teacher should be respected, irrespective of the gender and age. Then she opened the novel and read the title Kashi Yatre by Triveni. The grandmother had passed with flying colors. Now let's understand about the authoress. Sudha Murthy is a prolific writer, writing in both Kannada and English. She is an Indian engineering teacher and the chairperson of the Infosys Foundation, as well as a member of the Gates Foundation. She established the Murthy Classical Library of India. Some of her most popular works are Voice and Otherwise in 2002, Dollar Babu in 2003, Gently Falls the Buckla in 2008, Grandma's Bag of Stories in 2012, 3000 Stitches in 2017. Sudha Murthy has also appeared on screen in Marathi and Kannada films. Alright students, I have brought your attention some important questions. What made Triveni a popular writer? Why did the grandmother depend on her granddaughter to know the story? Who is the author of Kashi Yatre? Name of the Kannada weekly in which the story appeared? What incident made the grandmother realize the importance of education? Why was the grandmother in tears? What were the gifts exchanged between the granddaughter and grandmother? What circumstances led Sudha Murthy to becoming a teacher at the young age of 12? Why did the grandmother touch her granddaughter's feet? Education is important for all, young and old alike. Discuss with reference to the story. Alright my dear students, I hope you have enjoyed the story of grandmother. As per my point of view, learning is a continuous process and the true learner always looks methods to learn from anybody and everybody. That's all in the video guys, and this brings me to the end of the lesson. Keep practicing and keep reading your original textbook English for Communication 2. Well, the textbook has several useful tasks to improve your listening, speaking, reading and writing skills, which will improve your employability skills. All the best.